behalf of the President of the United States Army, and a grateful nation, please accept this flag as a symbol of our appreciation for your loved one's honorable and faithful service.
Thank you.
I want to start by saying that it's an honor for me to be here. I have known Marilyn and I've known the family from the passing of Sylvia Fishman a few years ago. And in the same way that Marilyn handled things with such respect and honor and caring and concern, the same is the case here. Another family member who's very beloved, who's very special to you guys and for whom you've taken very special care. So this is the time to honor Larry and the life that he had. And he was the kind of person that didn't need a lot of honor and fanfare and attention, but still at the same time, a lot of recognition, a lot of appreciation should be made to the fact that he was a good, simple guy. A guy who had a good insight, had a good sense of integrity, a good sense of caring for his fellow man, and a sense of simplicity in his life. And we should honor him for all that he did, and for all those 94 years that he lived to live the right way and to do the right thing. We start with a selection from the Psalms. We say the familiar Psalm 23 that talks about how God is our shepherd, that he protects us and watches over us in the good times and in the hard times. Mizmor LaDavid, Adonai roi lo iksar, bina yashech yarbitzeini, amei menuchos yanachaleni, nafshi yeshovev yanchene v'maglei tzedek leman shemo, gam ki elach begeit salmavis, lo yira ra ki ata imadi, shivtecha umishantecha, Hema Yanachamuni. Tarach Lafanai Shulchan Neged Sarai. Yishanta V'Shemen Roshi. Kosi Revaya. Achtov V'Chesed Yirdefuni. Kol Yemei Chayai. V'Shavti B'Beis Adonai. L'Arach Yamim. A Psalm of David. God is my shepherd, I shall not lack. In lush meadows he lays me down. Beside tranquil waters he leads me. He restores my soul. He leads me on paths of justice for his name's sake. I walk in the valley, overshadowed by death. I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the view of my torments. You anointed my head with oil, my cup overflows. May only goodness and kindness pursue me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord for many long days. We also read the familiar song, Psalm 130. Shir malos mimamakim kirasicha Adonai. Adonai shema v'koli tiaznacha koshuvos lakol tachadunoi. Ima v'nois tishmarya Adonai mi yamod. Ki imcha haslicha leman tivarei. Kivisi Adonai kivisa nashi v'lid varo hochalti. Nashi l'Adonai v'shamrim laboker. Yachel Yisrael el Adonai ki im Adonai achesed v'harbei imai fados. V'hu yifdei Yisrael mikol avanaisav. A song of ascents. From the depths I called you, O Lord. My Lord, hear my voice. May your ears be attentive to the sounds of my pleas. If you preserve iniquities, O God, who could survive? For with you is forgiveness, that you may be feared. I put confidence in God, my soul puts confidence, and I hope for his word. I yearn for my Lord among those longing for the dawn, Let Israel hope for God, for with God is kindness, and with him is abundant redemption. And he shall redeem Israel from all of their difficulties. So Marilyn wrote a beautiful tribute to Larry, to Lawrence, to Laser that appeared in the death notice. And so I would like to share that with you with a little bit more detail and a little bit more things that we can add on from a conversation that I shared with Marilyn and how much these stories really paint a picture of who he was. So Larry was born April 7th, 1926 in Geneva, Ohio. What was a nice Jewish boy doing out there? His family had a difficult time making a living, and they took advantage of a program that offered Jewish people a chance to learn how to farm in a faraway place, with land that was at reduced price or was free. What Larry saw when he was a kid was a very difficult life on the farm. It wasn't all it was cracked up to be. It was tons of work, tons of things to do, and not everyone wanted to work as hard as he did. From an early age, he looked at what needed to be done, and he took responsibility. When some people didn't do the work they were supposed to, he never said, it's not my job, I don't have to do it. Instead, he made a plan, he made sure that he did it. And for him, he did it because it was the right thing, because also he could see if he didn't do it and how the hard work would fall upon other people, like his grandmother, who's buried right over there. And he did not want her to have to work or suffer or have difficulty. And this time on the farm was so difficult that he was a smart boy. He had a lot of potential in school, but it was very hard to study. It was very hard to get ahead because he was always working. In fact, we know that because there was a time when he had a back injury and he couldn't work for some time on the farm, and his grades actually went up significantly because he finally had a chance to crack open the books when he went home. But this time on the farm gave him a chance to see that life is something you have to plan for. You have to work for it. And he didn't want this to have to happen to him, that he didn't have money settled away, he didn't have a good education, he didn't have options. And he made it his plan that he would go forward in life and he would do more, so he wouldn't have to just work hard on the farm. And his children, his family, if they were to come, wouldn't have to have the same challenges that he faced as a child. So one of the first opportunities he took was that after graduating Madison High School, he enlisted in the United States Army. And this was towards the end of World War II, at about 1942, 1943. And perhaps because he wanted to fight, he really wanted to see a way to help his country, he was enlisted in the 80th Division. And this was a division that saw plenty of real-life combat, eye to eye with the enemy. And he was one of the soldiers that fought along with General Patton in some of the most major parts of the war. And also very historically, for a Jewish person, was the fact that he was stationed in Nuremberg. And he was the military police, the army who supervised the moving and the coming and the going of the German soldiers who were under trial at this most significant, very historical moment. He saw it with his own eyes, these particular people who had done so much harm. When the war was over, he returned back to Cleveland, and at first he had a job in an office company, but he wanted to make something of himself. He wanted to learn a new trade. And he was very skilled. He was very good at math, he was very good at science, and it worked out very well. There was a veterans training program that would teach people to become electricians. So he took that course, he did very well, and he didn't just get placed in a regular old assignment, he was placed at the NASA Lewis Research Center. And he worked at that very same place from 1951 to 1987. And while I'm sure he would be very good at putting together light switches and fixing lamps that are not working anymore, he was put to work there on some pretty interesting, pretty challenging projects. He worked on wiring up the electricity of a wind tunnel and similar space-related things. And he got a chance to really, really show how smart he was, that he was a very bright person. But not a showy kind of person in his smarts, but intelligent. He had a problem, he figured it out on his own without much fanfare. But one of the things he did share about his workplace that was a little bit different, perhaps you could say, is that it really bugged him when people didn't want to work hard. He had such a strong work ethic himself that when someone didn't want to work, it made him really mad, really upset. And in fact, he didn't have the greatest of bosses. And his boss sometimes sent him the least motivated, the least interested workers. And it was one of the biggest challenges that he had in taking these guys he'd have to work along with who didn't want to do any of the work, but he himself was so dedicated and devoted. The way he lived his life was just to keep busy. He always had a routine. He always had the same things that he would always do. And whenever you would ask him, how's the day going? What do you have planned? He would just say how busy he was. I got a lot to do. And he was pretty busy, even in assisted living. Even when life is supposed to slow down, he still had his schedule of the laundry and this and that. And, never just sitting around and doing nothing. Like I said before, with the experiences of his childhood, he wanted to make sure that he was secure and he was independent. He didn't have to lean upon people. And this he did very well. He worked very hard and he saved and was able to put away money to be in assisted living and take care of himself as independently as he could, as long as he could. As much as he was a worker and a very practical guy, he still had plenty of time for a good sense of humor. You know, he still made his jokes. He made light of things. You know, he didn't take everything too seriously. And one of the funny jokes was that, like I said, there was a boss at NASA who he didn't like so much and wasn't particularly nice to him. And this boss was throwing a Christmas party, and for some reason they failed to invite him. Maybe they figured he was Jewish, he wouldn't want to come, or it was a little bit of a negative feeling, you know, in the office, perhaps an anti-Semitic feeling that they had. So he decided he would come to the party anyways. And then I guess when it came time to kind of saying, well, you know, why am I here? He said, you know, they didn't invite him, but he felt like he should come. Because why? He was coming to a relative's birthday party. And who was a relative's birthday party? Well, it was a Christmas party, and it was celebrating the birthday of Jesus, and he proudly said, I'm Jewish, so I'm related to this guy Jesus. So, you know, it's a relative's party. How could I not come? So, you know, that was his nature, you know, kind of serious, kind of funny at the same time. And a little joke that he made that I think Stuart would appreciate was that I think that when we were talking about the burial for Mrs. Bayer down there, he was involved in the funeral, you know, preparations and, you know, meeting with the funeral director. And so somehow it got into his mind that there was a coffin that he liked. The family enjoyed this coffin number 228, model 228. And so there was always a joke that he would make all the time, you know, I'm not ready for my 228 yet, or something like that.
Oh, okay.
So I probably told the joke a little wrong.
No, you got it right.
You got it right.
Okay. So yeah, so if you could joke about your own coffin and mortality, you know, it tells you you have your act together to a certain extent. But I think that the reason why he could be like this and could have such a good sense of humor is that he was very gentle and he was very kind, and he was a guy who did his thing. He worked very hard, but he was a people person. You know, at the bottom of everything, he was a people person who loved people. And yes, he didn't like people who didn't work hard, but if you worked just even a little bit, I think he would be a good friend and he would like you. But one of the things I think that is most so special about him was the fact that he was kind of set in his ways, and he had his routine, and he was, you know, trying to promote his autonomy as much as possible. But there was always room in his life for people like Marilyn. They were related as family, but Marilyn, you didn't have an obligation to him. You didn't have to take care of him. But it sounds like you really just jumped to the occasion, you know, both because you loved him and you appreciated and respected him, but just because you saw how special he was. You know, you saw his really special character. And you're the one who told me, you said that, you know, whatever comes out today, I just want people to know that he was a good person, that he was kind and he was caring, and he was someone who loved other people in this world. As simple as that. And I think that that's really what made the last few years of his life very special, is that he didn't really ask for a lot of people, but he had the people who cared about him greatly. He had Marilyn, and of course comes with Harris, and you and him talked about target shooting, and you had a lot of great things in common, and it's not a small thing to have a good friend like him, you know, him having you for 34 years or so is what you said. So we will certainly miss him, and we appreciate who he was, his hard work, his integrity. We especially miss it. We especially appreciate his commitment to the country. And we were so pleased that we could have the honor guard, we could have the flag, we could have all these things, these symbols of the country and the service that meant so much to him, and really to show him how much we appreciate it. So we close by saying, you know, thank you for being you. You know, you had a tough childhood, and you had plenty of excuses to be unhappy or, you know, disappointed and to be a more difficult person, but you really took your proverbial lemons and you made them into lemonade, and you took your difficult childhood and made it a worldview that you're going to work hard and be strong and be independent. You know, and you made you made good things out of a truly difficult situation. So we pray that his memory should be for a blessing, and, you know, he's surrounded by his loved ones here, and they should all be together in Gan Eden, you know, this nice family rejoined together once again. And we also pray for Marilyn, you know, and the merit of all your good deeds and caring for him and loving him. You should only know good friendships and good love from other people, you know, and so thank you for this opportunity. So at this moment now, we've had a chance to share, you know, nice words, you know, that connect to the soul and his spirit, and we know he's listening to us, but it's a nice opportunity to serve with our hands, to serve physically, you know, to do the mitzvah of the Jewish burial. So at this time now, we're going to lower the casket, and we're going to participate and all assist together as his friends, as his community, in placing earth on top.
Good. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll do that. So I'm gonna put a shovel full of dirt, and then they're gonna close it, put on the top, and then once we put on the top, that's when I'll ask you guys to assist.
Never.
Just to kind of
You don't have to do it. Thank you.
okay. We leave the service here in the sense that we've been able to give special words to raise his spirit, to speak to him and to tell his soul how much we appreciate him and all that he's done for us. We've had a chance as a community, as family, as friends, to be take part in the physical needs of his burial. So just as we take leave, I was saying before, the fact that it's not a coincidence that his burial, that his funeral took place on Hanukkah. And so Hanukkah is obviously a special time in the sense of many themes. And one theme is that this is a very dark time of the year. This is the winter, it's much colder, we're much more inside. But Hanukkah is meant to give us light, to give us hope, to lift up our spirits. And Hanukkah doesn't do that by saying that everything is great and everything is fine. It just encourages us to focus on the small little lights, the small things that are good, and those little things will give us a new perspective. But it was also a time of heroism, of people giving everything they had to a cause and not giving into a difficulty, to a situation that seemed impossible. And so certainly these themes of Hanukkah tie in very nicely with the themes of the life that Larry had. Not giving up, a sense of courage, a sense of hope, and being very courageous in a general sense. So we close by just saying the El Mali Rachmi prayer, the memorial prayer, the theme of which is that God watches over us and takes care of our loved ones and puts them in a special place in heaven. And we've taken care of them down here. We've done all the obligations we've been able to. And in heaven now, they're in God's special care, in God's special charge. Just as we go, we think about his family. We think about the various people, who he left behind. His sisters of blessed memory, Sylvia Fishman, Lucille Baer, and Gloria Kretsch. And by his survivors, by his nephews, Elton Fishman, Ron Kretsch, Eileen Shane, and of course Marilyn Baer and Harris, his nieces, as well as his grandnieces, grandnephews, and great-grandnieces. He will always be remembered, certainly for a blessing, as a very special man. If one would like to give a contribution, they could do so to the Wounded Warriors Family Support at www.fs.org. So I'm going to now see the memorial prayer. El Malei Rachamim, Shaychen Bamrumim, Hamsei menucha nechayna al kanfei hashchina b'malais kadoshim utaharim kezarakiah mazhirim es nishmas Eliezer ben Avraham shahalach lo'ilamo v'avor shanachtu mispalim hazkaras nishmaso began Eden te menuchaso lechein bal harachamim yastirechu v'sisa kanafav le'olamim v'yitzor b'tzor chayim es nishmaso Adonai hu nachalaso v'yanuch al mishkavo b'shalom v'nomar Amen.
Amen.
O God, full of mercy, who dwells on high, grant proper rest on the wings of His divine presence, in the lofty levels of the holy and the pure ones who shine like the glow of the firmament, for the soul of our most beloved Larry Lawrence Wymor, Eliezer, the son of Abraham, who has gone into his world, and for whom we pray. May his resting place be in the Garden of Eden, and may the Master of Mercy shelter him in the shelter of his wings for all eternity, and may he bind his soul in the bond of life. God is his heritage, and may he repose in peace on his resting place. And now we say together, Amen. So that concludes the service, and we just want to wish our peace and our comfort to Marilyn. And like we say to the mourners, we say Hamakom Yanachem Eschem B'Sach Shar Aveli Tzion Yerushalayim, that we pray together that the omnipresent, that God should comfort you among all the other people who have suffered difficult losses, among all the mourners of Zion and Jerusalem. Thank you so much.